My perception of funerals. And I think what happens is when you come to a new opinion, or sometimes it's not just a new opinion, you could be involved in something that you never really had an opinion about because you were just immune to the way things are done. So sometimes when you develop a new perception of something, it comes in stages. So I think my son Isaiah, he wrote this quote because I call him the wisdom writer. That's his name for himself. He's the wisdom writer. So he writes quotes, he journals, and he just loves to write. So, okay, speaking of Isaiah, he's letting me know that he made it to work. So hold on just 1 second. His job loves him so much. Who couldn't love Isaiah? Such a kind heart. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I was just talking about what my son had stated, that people, and this was based on his observation. He basically said people love you more when you're gone. That's when they really start loving you. So I also one of my good friends' son was murdered, chance, okay? And I don't want to start crying and go off into a crying spell over that, but Chance mom had a memorial. Chance was cremated. And it was one of the most beautiful funeral services I could have ever attended. However, there was no dead body. So it brought a totally different type of energy, a better energy, because most funerals that I went to had bodies. And I guess if there's no body, it's technically a memorial anyway and not a funeral. I'm not sure the legality or the way the term should be properly used, but I know if there's a dead body, that's definitely a funeral. However, I noticed that when people are cremated, that was referred to more as a memorial. Okay. So I'll look up the words just so I'll know for sure what it means. So my perception of funerals has definitely changed due to my consciousness and awareness. So this is not to offend anyone that has held funerals for their family members, okay? And also, this is not to offend anyone that wants a funeral, okay? However, my perception is my perception. So listen to me very carefully. Funerals are sick, okay? I'm going to repeat it again. Funerals are sick, okay? And I've been to many of them. I've almost went in a casket with my grandmother when she passed, okay? I combed my grandmother's hair while she was in that casket, okay? But for one, this is why it's sick, okay? In my opinion, before I leave this earth, my body leaves this earth, I will have fully formed mentally and emotionally, okay? And I also will be conscious of many things, not everything, but many things. So let's start with why I say funerals are sick. Number one, what is done to the deceased body, first of all, makes it sick. The draining of the blood out of the body, In some cases, organs are donated, the removal of the organs, um, the overall humiliation of the body. Okay. Number two, funerals are enablers. And when I say that, I mean this: a funeral enables us to treat one another bad because subconsciously we know that no matter how bad we treat one another while we are still alive, we know subconsciously we can somewhat heal our conscious mind when we go to that funeral and cry over that body and grieve and miss that person. Remember, a funeral enables that behavior. What if there was no funerals? Maybe people would think twice about how they treated somebody. Okay. Number three, funerals are big money makers. Okay. Now, I have not studied the history of funerals. Okay. However, I live in the United States, and this is an economically greedy, narcissistic country filled with greedy, narcissistic people that do not have your best interest at heart. Okay, so my number three is, what if funerals were originally created? Originally, okay, we're not talking about tribal funerals and the way the Indians originally did things to respect the body, to show homage or gratitude for this person that lived. We're not talking about the old school way that they buried people. Okay. And I think originally people were mostly buried more Islamic style. Okay. Because Muslims don't embalm the body. So the body is not being humiliated, drained of blood, organs taken in some cases, along with the body being embalmed. Okay. So my number three is, be very aware of scams. What if funerals were one of the most biggest scams that exist in the United States? And also, what made me come to this, my perception of funerals, is how I started watching more funerals online. Because the funeral homes got YouTube channels now. Okay. So, and then also, since it's been COVID, I've watched a couple of live funerals with a particular sister that passed away. Okay. At this particular church. So anyway, the money aspect of it. Okay. So that's three I named. Those are my main three. I'll see if I think of any more. Okay, so you may think that I am one of the craziest people you've ever heard on YouTube. But let me tell you what my dream is and what I would like to do. And I don't think that there shouldn't be a service for people. Okay, but I think that your funeral, if possible, okay, if at all possible, should be done while you're still alive. And I don't know if anyone does that. I mean, I know I don't hear a lot about it. I mean, let's have what we call living funerals. Okay? And let's see how many would show up for that. Because people, funerals are abused. Okay. I have many relatives that have not met my sons yet. Okay. And many of my relatives, I have not met their kids. It's not just one-sided. And it's because we live out of state from one another. I moved out of state when I was a young adult. Okay. So I originally was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Me, I think I want to have a living funeral. Okay. I am in between. I'm not sure if I want to be cremated or if I want to be buried like a Muslim would so that my body is not humiliated. I don't know if I want to be buried more like a Christian would as far as being embalmed and all of that. Um, One of the reasons I said I think funerals are sick is because what is done to the body. Okay. So I'm not sure, but I do know this. I'm not sure about what I would want done with my body. However, the service, the memorial service, funeral service, whatever you would want to call it, I would like to do that while I'm still alive. Okay. Okay. Number four, another reason I think funerals are sick is because the person that we are representing cannot enjoy the service with us. Think about the sickness in that. Everybody kicking it, having a good time, but I'm laying up there in a casket. I can't hear or see nothing. I don't know what's going on. So think about how unfair that is. The main purpose and the main, not purpose, the main person that's being represented is not allowed to participate because they are dead. I mean, did a slave master come up with this idea? Because that sounds like some slave master crap. I mean, who came up with the idea that somebody should lay up in a casket dead and they the main cause of the celebration? We celebrating their life, but yet we gonna choose to do the celebrating when they can't intermingle and join in and laugh and joke? Come on now. We got to really, after I do this video, I may do a follow-up video on this because I'm going to study more on how funerals came about in the first place. And I guarantee you this, I have not done my study yet, right? But my intuition tells me this. What I'm going to find ain't all good. I bet you I find some crookedness in why they created funerals in the first place. And I'm going to tell you why there will be crookedness there. It's because of the amount of money that's made from it, y'all. What if all that money, the average funeral, when my mom passed away, she had a almost $10,000 funeral policy, okay? That all went to Ted Foster and Sons. What if all that money that we were paying on the funeral from the insurance, paying out of pocket, what if that went into the family heritage? Okay, what if that went into the family? We might have less homelessness. We spending all this money on dead people, y'all. When we got people walking around suffering and living the worst lives while they still alive, shooting up drugs, they depressed. What if that money was spent on an inpatient drug rehab for your relative? You got to look at where all this money could be going. That's just like somebody spending all their money They got a head full of hair. Say, I got a head full of hair right now, which I do. And that would be like me spending $100 a week on some wigs and some fake hair when I could be putting that in my savings account or at least have $1,000 put aside in a safe in the house. You see what I mean? It's like you got to look at it, but my perception of funerals, y'all, ain't good. And I'm gonna tell you what happened to me. Okay, there were my adopted daughter or my goddaughter. Her brother passed away, also in 2016. JoJo, okay, and then Chance passed away the early part of 2017. Okay, now they had two different type of funeral styles. Both were sad, but Chance's funeral had more of a piece to it. There was no dead body there. Okay, I went to JoJo's funeral first. Both moms invested a lot and showed the love they felt for their sons in their funerals. But I'm gonna tell you something. When I went to JoJo's funeral, he was in a casket, and JoJo took very good care of himself. He had some beautiful dreads. However, the casket was so big, um, and it just seemed like it was the first funeral I had ever gone to where I felt like I had to look over in the casket. And I almost missed viewing the body because I wanted to let the family and other important people go first. And maybe part of me didn't want to see the body too quick because I was so heartbroken too. But the one of the gentlemen that worked for the funeral home was so rude. When they closed the casket, I let him know, I didn't get a chance to view JoJo and I did love him. And I miss his smile. He had the most beautiful smile. Um, and the man had such a nasty attitude. I mean, and this was an African American man that worked for the funeral home. And I mean, he was a mean, nasty something. I don't wish death on nobody, but at that point, he was so freaking rude to me that I'm thinking all the good people have to die. JoJo was murdered also by his childhood friend. And I'm thinking, JoJo's such a nice person. He's laying up here in this casket while this rude, narcissistic funeral home worker is just angry that I love JoJo so much I wanted to see his body. So it was just anyway, the casket did get open back. I don't think it had technically completely been shut from what I remember. And so I did see the body, right? And for approximately 2 years, I would have flashbacks of me looking over in JoJo's casket and seeing his body. Eventually, the flashbacks went away. And of course, now with Chance passing, for 2 years straight, I cried at least once a month to the point where I think it affected my bond with his mom. I don't know. I got to figure out where I'm going with my life. However, I didn't function very well. And his mom mentioned to me that she cries every day. And I believe her. She said it's not a day that go by she don't cry over a Chance, right? And I mean, I failed Chance mom emotionally. I did fail her emotionally, but I was going through some things myself and I'm kind of like learning myself on what makes me tick too, right? So at the end of the day I was heartbroken, deeply heartbroken. um behind JoJo's death and Chance's death. I wish I would have spent more time with them. I spent a lot of time with JoJo's sister, Nene, when she was in her preteen and teen years. I wish I could have spent more time with JoJo. I wish I could have spent more time with Chance. I wish I could have saved them both. I wish I could have done more. However, I had no clue that Chance would be taken out of this world, on this earthly world, at 17 years old. And JoJo was approximately 21, 22 years old when he passed. So he had, JoJo at least made it to adulthood. However, that's one of the, oh, number four. That would be another reason I don't like funerals. Funerals give us a sense that we have more time with our loved ones, but we don't. Any of us could pass at any time. But funerals give us a delusion and a false fantasy. It's a total delusion that you have more time. Especially when we had funerals for elderly people. It gives this perception to young people that, if you're young and you go to a funeral of your elderly deceased relatives, it gives you a delusion or fantasy that you're going to make it to that age. And death can come at any age. People die at birth. People die in their mother's wombs. 7-year-olds die in cancer facilities because they're stricken with cancer. Okay, so, it gives this delusion that you have a long time to be here. And that's not the case for everyone. Chance lived to 17. JoJo lived to about 21 or 22. You see what I mean? However, when my Uncle Paul passed away in St. Louis, I was in a homelessness displacement situation. I did not make it to his funeral, okay? However, I had spoken to my Uncle Paul. I had visited him in 2014, the early part of 2014. My Uncle Paul, my airplane, I actually missed my flight leaving St. Louis, Missouri, because my Uncle Paul and his son, Lil Paul, came to the airport to come through the gates. And we went, I had already entered and went through security and all of that. And I came back out to spend time with my Uncle Paul. And we sat on the bench and he asked me a bunch of questions. And somewhere in my heart, I knew I wouldn't see my Uncle Paul again. I don't know how, but I remember being grateful that he came to the airport and didn't let me leave St. Louis without him hugging and seeing me. My Uncle Paul was very depressed and troubled because he lost his wife, not due to death, but he lost her due to separation. But we got to be careful how we treat our wives and husbands, especially when we do have loving wives. And my Uncle Paul, he did have a loving wife, and he lost her. He did. He lost her on many levels. So, and he understood, that he was my Uncle Paul was a real human being. He understood consequences. And I remember him telling me that when he tried to get Rochelle back, he ran her off more when he got abusive with her. He actually admitted to being abusive. So, and I mean, they never legally divorced. Okay. So, when he passed, they would have been married about 40 years or something like that. They were living in the same house together um, about 30 years, almost 30 years, very close to it, maybe 28, something like that. Um, she's like a second mom to me. Rochelle, the mother I am, has a lot to do with what she showed me when I was little, the example she set for me. Rochelle had 6 children, um, all my cousins, of course. And so, anyway, um, I was not able to make it to Uncle Paul's funeral. However, I was in regular daily contact with my cousin, which was my Uncle Paul's third son with Rochelle. And, you know, I think after JoJo's funeral, I was pretty much done with the funeral world anyway. I mean, I think that, like I said, this is not to offend anybody, but you may listen to this and it may get you to see things on a different level. I think we need to have living funerals if possible. If the death is unplanned, however, I think all of that stuff they do to these bodies, and remember, all that crap that's done to this dead body, it ain't for free now. When they drain the blood out your dead relative, that ain't free. When you put on that ID, you want to be an organ donor, and they take every organ from your dead relative, ain't none of that free. The hospitals getting profited, doctors, funeral homes. It's a profit industry. You understand me? So all that, the examination, the autopsy, I do think there is a need for autopsies. Okay, I'm not saying autopsies are sick. Okay? Many people are murdered. They're poisoned by friends, relatives. Yeah, autopsies are very necessary. I don't consider that part of the funeral. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm talking about the funeral and any elements or process that goes on that has to do with that funeral service for that particular human being, okay? um the costliness of it and all of that. However, I'm not saying don't get no autopsy when somebody's been murdered or and I'm in approval. There's been people where they've had to resume a body from the ground to do an examination or autopsy to figure out later what happened to that person. I'm not against that neither. I don't think that's sick. I think that those are necessary steps so that people could go to prison for what they did to these people. Because remember, if somebody murdered you, even if they poisoned you, they did that to you while you were still living, and they need to pay for that crime. What, they had no right to do that. They took a life. So I'm not against autopsies and things like that. I'm just saying the pure, this dead body laying up at the front. I mean, that's the only thing special the person that's being celebrated gets, is they not in the back of the room, they at the front. Oh, whoop-de-doo. He or she still can't talk back to you. You're celebrating them and they laying up there dead. I really think I'm done with funerals, y'all. And I'm going to say this before I end this video. And this goes for my own daughters too. Okay? And don't take this the wrong way. I got daughters that were part of a custody battle with their narcissistic dad, their sociopathic dad. Okay? I love having children with narcissists and sociopaths, y'all. Okay? I ain't perfect here. Whatever it was in me, I love sociopaths and narcissists because I have had their children. Okay, and I suffer the consequences of it. And I'm not talking about my sons. My sons, they come back home. They try their best. They not perfect, but they try their best. But I'm talking about my daughters. They want to be in no contact, right? However, God heals, right? And see, before I leave this earth, I'm going to be conscious. And I'm going to share my consciousness with you. And so I'm going to say this. You may agree with it. You may think it's mean. You may completely understand it. But anybody that refuses to include me in their life and speak to me, right? If they are the reason, if I have reached out, one of my daughters blocked me. I reached out and hoped that she's doing well in the country she's in, and I got blocked. I said, wow, that just shows me the number that her dad's did on her. So you got to remember, these children that you gave birth to, when they have sociopathic and narcissistic parents, they're victims too now. However, they're not victims forever. They're making a choice. Once they turn 25, 30 years old, they're making a choice, right? But remember, my perception of funerals have changed. And this is what I want to say. When I reach out to you and I apologize to you for anything that I've done wrong to you, I want to see you while you're alive. Okay? That way we can have all the benefits I named, all the benefits that you do not have when you celebrate a dead person that's sitting up in the front of the room. Y'all celebrating this dead person, but they can't celebrate with you, right? When I reach out, I want to experience us being able to enjoy one another's company alive. So, if God forbid my daughters were to pass away, I would have to consider if I want to attend the funeral. And I'm going to tell you why. Am I participating in the sickness? This is an individual that made a choice not to speak to me while they're alive, right? So I'm an empathetic person. I look at how it affects the other person. So if this person made it clear to me that they don't want me in their life, do I have the right to even be at their funeral? Is that the right thing to do? I'm not into seeing you when you're dead. I want to see you when you're alive. And I would rather not have someone, I don't even care if my daughters were to hear this, right? I would rather not be disrespected if I did choose to have a funeral or memorial. If you're going to come, I may choose to have a living memorial where I do my memorial while I'm still living and I can enjoy the people that show up. That's my dream of what I want to do. Now, if my daughters want to come to that, they're welcomed. If they ever become conscious and wake up. Everybody don't get that chance to become conscious and wake up. Our days are numbered here, y'all. So anyway, that's my perception of funerals. So hopefully it makes you open your eyes some, open your horizons. Maybe this video will stimulate how you look at these funerals now. Because I didn't always look at it this way. Because I was immune to going to funerals. My mom died, I went to the funeral. My grandma died, I went to the funeral. My daddy died, I went to the funeral. If I loved you and I knew you when you was a little boy or girl, I went to the funeral. Some funerals I weren't able to make it to. My auntie Bertia was Catholic. I didn't make it to her funeral, but I spent a lot of time with her when she was alive. A lot of time. And that's the way she would have wanted it. I know her. She would have wanted it where we spent more time together alive. Okay? So at the end of the day, my perception of funerals have changed. And anybody that I'm not talking to, where me and that person are making a choice, I don't care who they are. I'm not coming to see you when you're dead. I want to see you when you're alive. Hey, you may think that's disrespectful that I'm not showing up to somebody's funeral, but I'm saying if we couldn't come on an even ground and fix our relationship before we die, I'm not going to participate in that sickness, because I think funerals are sick now anyway. My daughters may subconsciously know, well, when mom dies one day, we'll go to the funeral. They may even respect me enough to come to my funeral. But these same people don't have enough respect for you, or enough regard for you, or enough love in their heart to be around you while you're alive. These same people can't forgive and move on. We only get one life on this earth. We don't get more than one. Okay, so this is Irene Marie, and this is my perception of funerals. I pray and I hope to the Lord that you learn something or could at least understand my perspective. If you don't understand my perspective, you have that right. We're not all going to agree. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment if you would like to leave a comment. May the Lord be with you today, and have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you so much. And at a minimum, even if you choose to still continue to go to memorials and funerals, don't make that the real time you spend with the person. Make the real time you spend with your loved ones, your friends or relatives, even your coworkers. Do it while you guys are still breathing, while you can, okay? Because life ain't guaranteed, y'all. I love y'all, and thank you so, so much. This is My Perspective of Funerals by Irene Marie. Thank you.